morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. So Josephine and I work for Hotwire. We're a travel website in San Francisco, and we're part of the big Expedia family. So we're both product managers, which means that part of our days, we actually optimize our own product. So who here is responsible for optimizing their own product? Cool. So we're just like you guys, except that we're French. So we're like you, and we have many great ideas. It can be some ideas, hundreds of great ideas. But the big question is, what am I going to test first? And what am I going to test next? So prioritizing your test the right way is actually what's going to make your optimization impactful and powerful. So that's what we're going to talk about for the next 30 minutes. We've been doing it for a few years at Hotwire, and we're going to tell you what we've learned along the way. So we're going to start, before we get too excited about optimization and prioritization, let's talk about the basics. Then we're going to tell you how you can do it and what we found in the industry. And then we're going to be very, very practical and tell you how we do it every day at Hotwire. And then before we let you go for lunch, we're going to tell you how to optimize your optimization. OK, so who here has a systematic, scalable prioritization framework? OK, a few people here. So if you don't have one, maybe it's because you don't have a velocity or you don't think you need one. Let me tell you, you need one. The first one was just mentioned before. When I started at Hotwire, I had to set up optimization. And then I had CEO and VPs and directors coming to me and telling me what I had to test. And I was like, oof, I need to manage all of that. So prioritization is going to help you do that. I was also the new French girl doing all this like crazy tests on their website. And so when I built the prioritization framework, it really helped bringing transparency. Optimization, A/B testing is not a black box. We actually know what we're doing. And so I got trust from the company from this framework. And then because you tell everybody in the company how you're actually prioritizing your test, you get better ideas from your employees and people working with you. Because they know what's the difference between a good idea and a great idea that had a higher potential to actually succeed. So at the end of the day, it's just really to make your life easier. It's going to make your life easier if you prioritize and you have a real framework. Good. Now, before we get and set up our framework, we need to know where you want to go. Know your destination. So what's your testing profile? Are you a beginner or an advanced? Are you going to test only incremental changes or bold new features? What's your product strategy? At least at Hotwire, optimization is really here to work towards the product strategy and where we want to take our product. So if we don't know where we want to take our product, we don't know how to prioritize our tests. And then what are our optimization goals? Is it only conversion rate, or are we trying to do other things with it? And all of that is going to help you define your prioritization framework. So you know what you want. Now you have to know who you are. I think it was said before, but you need to get your analytics right. So where are the pages where you need to work the most? Where in your funnel are you good or not so good at? Listen to your customers, customer service, user lab, OLab, anything. Just know what they like about your product and what they don't like, because this is going to help you set up your prioritization framework. And then finally, look at your competitors, so you see what they have and what are your gaps. Just know who you are, where you want to go, and that's going to help you build your framework. And then finally, when I started at Hotwire, I had Post-its everywhere, and Jira, and Trello, and emails, and all the ideas were all over the place. So you need to start really centralize everything. Google Sheet, Excel works really well. You need to have something that's going to help you rank and sort all your ideas. Organize your ideas, and then also tag them per page and per theme, or whatever is going to help you prioritize them. OK, so you know you have to do it. You have the basics to get started. Now you can get excited about it and actually set it up.
Great. Thanks, Pauline. So you've done your homework, you have all the great ideas from this conference, from doing your research on where you want to go, what you're good at, not so good at. And usually at this point, if you're like us, you have hundreds of ideas. A lot of them are quite personal. There's some politics involved. So how do you decide what should come first? So when we were preparing this presentation, we actually also did our homework and looked at what's out there, what are people recommending, and the answer is there is a lot. There's a lot of different ways that people have been looking at it. There's a lot of literature. It can get a bit overwhelming. So what I'm going to try to do for you today is basically try to convey what is the results of looking at all those frameworks, what are kind of the common grounds and underlying approaches that we see, and hopefully empower you to then make them your own. So here are some of the most common things we've seen. So PIE framework is something that a lot of people reference. Brian Eisenberg has an interesting take, Monetate. And then finally, I'll also walk you through how we've done it at Hotwire and why I think this is a great approach. So what are you trying to achieve when you're building your prioritization framework? Well, the bottom line is you want to try to get your value and effort right. Because if you're able to really know how valuable the test is and how much effort it's going to be for you to build it, then you know what to do. If it's a low effort and high value, just do it already. Otherwise, you might have to do a bit of research. But if you're able to get effort and value right, then you're able to make the right decision with your different ideas. However, it's not that easy because I always think that my test ideas have the best value and everybody else does. So how do I make it something that's actually usable? So all of the frameworks that we looked at talk about value and effort, and that's unpleasant. All of them break down value in, so reach is what should be written here. I don't know why it's not coming up. Let's see, no. Okay, so reach is the number of people who will be impacted by your test. So for example, if it's only for returning customers or people from a specific channel, the test might not make as big of a difference. The second piece is lift. And so lift is reasons to expect a strong reaction. So for those people who will be part of the test, do you expect to see a dramatic change in behavior? And finally, strategic fit. So basically, it's whether or not this idea is aligned with your strategy. Again, your optimization program should be the way for you to get to where you want to be. And so an idea that fits into that should be a priority for you. So reach, lift, strategic fit are the three underlying pillars of value. And then effort, most people look at, so it's design effort, this is engineering effort, and the last piece is coordination. I'm really sorry, there should be, it's actually, I can see them on the screens over there, but not here. I really apologize. I hope the next ones do have them. Yes, okay, great. So now that we've identified those underlying pillars, let's see how the different frameworks leverage them and look at them. So the PIE framework, I think, is the most standard. And so for value, it's really breaking it down into potential and importance. And if you read into it, the potential is around how many people are impacted, so it's what I would call reach. And importance is how big is the impact, so lift. And then the effort is just bundled together as is. And then for each of them, you basically give it a score from 0 to 5, and then you add them, and at the end of the day, that gives you where to start. Monetate is similar, except that it takes value altogether and breaking down effort in creative level of effort and technical, scoring from 0 to 10. So a different take here. And finally, Brian Eisenberg has an interesting notion where effort is actually broken down into resource and time. And what is the added learning from the time information is around coordination. Do you need to get stuff from your BI team, your content team? Do you have dependencies on other elements? So all of those frameworks have an interesting way to break down value and effort. One thing that I think they're lacking, though, is that it's still very much arbitrary to put an actual number on those. And it's a challenge that we've run into when we're trying to look at IDs and prioritize them is lift is something that is very much, your own intuition. And it's hard to make it something that's objective. And since it's such a big impact in how you're going to rule your test, then we try to find something that takes some of the emotion and the personal biases out of the way to make it something a bit more structured. And the other piece is, if you look at any of those models and you take a given ID and make it score by different people, they might come with a very different result. So what we're trying to do is have rules that are objective enough that anybody scoring the same ID should have the same score at the end. So what we recommend is that for each of those sub-elements, define specific rules, like binary rules, that will be subset of those, and they should be objective, so it's a yes-no question. They should be discriminating, so it should be something that not all the tests will have. If you say something that all your IDs have, then you're not any smarter in terms of where to start. And also, they should leverage your knowledge. Like Pauline mentioned, you should have done a lot of research, homework. You should know what other people are doing. You should have your analytics, voice of your customers. Make sure that you leverage all this homework when you decide what to do. And then on the effort side, well, not all companies have the same bottlenecks. So you should first do your research and see what is blocking you when you're running tests, like what is making a test take longer to build or to run, and identify what your bottlenecks are. And once you know your bottlenecks, try to have sizing that's you can't argue with. So usually you might have, if you work with points, you could have developers' points, maybe it's number of days of resources on the test, something that's neutral. And then that way you can have more objective value and an effort that will be actually useful in making decisions. So all of that is very conceptual, lots of general guidelines. So how does it work in real life? So that's Pauline.
Great. So I'm the product manager for car. So if you do a car rental on hotwire.com, it's going to be my baby. So I can tell you how to do prioritization for car. Anyone here works for Priceline or rentalcars.com? Good. OK, so how do we do it? We use the points model. So like Josephine said, we have different rules for values. Let's do it. For reach, I have two rules. Is my test going to be above the fold? Yes or no? And will all my customers see it? Yes or no? I believe more in a test that's going to be above the fold than something in the footer. And I also think that when I scale it, if it's only for my repeat customers or my email customers, the reach is not going to be as big. OK, lift. We have 4 rules for lift. So is my primary metric conversion? One of my optimization goals from my homework is to increase conversion rate. So if my primary metric is conversion rate, point. Is it adding or removing information? So our testing profile is bold. We don't only want to do incremental changes. So if I'm actually changing an element on the page, adding or removing something, I'm going to give it a point. Does the ID come from research, customer service, customer voice, or analytics? If I have something that's going to show me that it's actually coming from our product or our customers, I believe more in my ID, so I'm going to give it a point. And then finally, if I see it on Priceline, Expedia, rental cars, it's probably that their customers like it. So then why wouldn't my customer like it as well? And then finally, we said product strategy fit. So we have some goals for our car product at Hotwire. So how am I going to align with these long-term goals with my optimization tests? So we don't make the same money with all our products. So we want to sell more of the cars where we make more money. So that's one rule. We also have a problem that's actually an industry problem where people reserve a car and don't actually pick up the car. 50% of people reserving a car never pick up the car. So if my test ID is going to help reducing this no-show cancellation, then I'm going to give it a point. At Hotwire, we believe in choice and bringing more choice to our customers in terms of, for example, cars and rates and locations and options and stuff like that. So if my test ID is going to help this long-term goal, I'm going to give it an extra point. And then finally, we tag. Remember tagging at the beginning? We tag our IDs with themes, price display, urgency, confidence, and all of that. So if I have 2 or more themes for this ID, I believe in it a little bit more, so I give it a point. And then for effort, it's very easy. I have a team with designers and developers, so I just work points. And we actually, the last one is coordination. Josephine talked about it earlier, but at Hotwire, we're a small team, so coordination has never really been a bottleneck. So I don't use it when I prioritize my tests. I'll be able to run upstairs and talk to BI or go to content pretty easily. OK, so let's do it together. Let's say I have somebody sending me a screenshot from Priceline saying, hey, they have a great free cancellation flag on their page. You should test it as well. Good. OK, what's the hypothesis behind it? Well, if I add a flag, free cancellation flag on my checkout page, then my conversion rate is going to increase because customers will feel more confident reserving a car on Hotwire, knowing that they can change their plans. Just for you to, when I kind of see that, I know what I'm talking about, so I just put a screenshot so you know what I'm talking about as well. So that's kind of like what this will be on Hotwire, top of the page, green flag, free cancellation, very straightforward. OK, let's score it together. You remember the first ID? Is it above the fold? Yes. Will 100% of my customers see it? No, because we don't only sell free cancellation cars. So that's only for the free cancellation customers. So 1 point only. What is the main metric? Hypothesis, conversion rate, point. Is it adding or removing something on my page? Yes, it's adding the flag. Does it come from analytics or research or customer feedbacks? Not really, so no points. Does it come from benchmarking? Clearly, everybody has it. Is it going to promote our product where we make the most money? No, because only 50 people of customers actually pick up the car. It's not the most profitable product. Is it going to help reducing the cancellation? No, we don't do negative points, but so no points for this rule. Is it increasing choice? No, it's not increasing choice. And finally, does it have 2 or more themes? Yes, I would say this one is going to build confidence. That's one of our themes. And then it's going to bring more information about the product, which is another one, so 2. So at the end, this ID has 5 points. It's OK. It's not 10, but it's not 0. 5 is good. And then in terms of UX and dev, it's going to be small. A badge, small for my devs, small for my designers. That's how easy it is. And I do that for every single idea that I have. And it takes me, now that I know my rules, it takes me like 10 seconds per ID. And at the end, I have my Google Sheet with, I think, 273 IDs at the moment. And they are all scored. And then I just have to sort my big table, starting from the highest score and lowest points for devs and design. That's it. And when I go to my sprint planning, I just start at the top of the list, and I just take the top ones. It's flexible. I don't have to do only 1 and 2 and 3. If there is a conflict on a page, or if we're doing something big on one page, I might just wait and go to number 4 and 5. But you get the idea. Coming back to the stakeholders management, if anyone in the company, including the CEO or a VP, comes to me with an ID, it's going to go through this. And if it only gets 3 points, I am not going to test their ID. And that's OK in our company, because everybody knows and believes in these rules. I hope you're convinced how easy it is and how easy my life is when it comes to prioritizing and communicating about what tests I run.
Great. So you've done your homework. You've looked at value and effort, and you've defined rules that allow you to have, beautiful scores, and you've ranked all your IDs. So now you can sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Well, not really, unfortunately, because you have to keep getting better. And so how do you make sure that you have the best rules, that you're not missing out, that you're doing the right thing? Well, you have to keep monitoring the health of your optimization program. So the first thing, obviously, is to use KPIs. So hopefully, after all the talks this morning, you're convinced that you should define KPIs for the success of your testing program. Well, you should also monitor them and see how they move from 1 month to the next. So we recommend, I think it's kind of standard win rate, velocity win rate conversion, and that allows you to make sure that you're getting your trade-offs between value and effort, right? So if you're only doing big features, then you'll have a low velocity. Maybe the win rate will be good, but that's not how you're really going to have a big impact. So maybe that means you should prioritize low effort more. And same thing if you only do small, minor things that don't actually make any difference. So monitor velocity, win rate, and conversion over time, and readjust on the type of tests that you do first to make sure that those are still strong. And if you see that those KPIs start going down, then maybe it's time to challenge your prioritization rules, either get effort or value reevaluated to get them back up. The second piece is benchmarking the actual rules that you've defined. So one of the challenges we have with the highest paid person opinion is, I don't care if it's a 3, I want to do it, so do it. It's like you have to have ways to justify why you made the choice that you did. And a good way we found to promote and enforce our prioritization rules is to do benchmarking. So sometimes we have to build low-value tests, but we're able to look at the win rate of those, and then obviously we try to also build the high value and look at those win rates. So if you can plot those, that means you need to have some velocity, but hopefully after you run a couple of tests, you're able to get that kind of graph. That allows you to justify that your prioritization, your value estimates, you're doing the right thing. And it's not going to be, ideally you would have like something super perfect and only going up. What you're trying to look for here are clusters. You want your high value points to be on the high cluster and low value points to be on the low cluster. Because at the end of the day, what you need is not like a perfect predictor. You're not writing a PhD. What you're trying to do is just identify like the better ideas versus the not so good ideas. And if you see that this line here starts to flatten, it might mean that you need to revisit your rules.
Okay, so I already talked about it, but it's really important once you have a framework to communicate and educate the rest of the company about it. Share your rules, be transparent. Everybody's going to believe in what you do. It's going to be behind your framework. And then you're going to get feedbacks to make it better. And that's what we all want at the end of the day. So you're going to have people who've been at the company for 10 years, people who are new and have a fresh perspective. You're going to have very senior people. Doesn't matter. You just want to make your rules better. And then you can even scale all this framework outside of your team. Maybe marketing is going to use them. Maybe pricing is going to use your framework. Teams that are not like specifically in product working with you, but they can also adopt it. So revisit your rules when you get feedbacks and when you have ways to make them better. And then finally, almost there, build knowledge. So when you have results, don't only look at like individual results. It's been said this morning already, but just try to aggregate results. Translate conversion rate lift into insights about your customers. And that's like you have to go back to the top. Who you are, who are your customers, what are you good at, that's going to change. And where you want to go, it's also going to change based on all these learnings. So just take time to revisit your rules as you gain more learnings about yourself and your customers. Okay, we're almost done. So you have done your research. You know that you need prioritization, hopefully. You know who you are, where you want to go, and you have a centralized place with all your ideas. Then you're going to choose the framework that's going to work for you. The very basic is effort, a little bit more advanced, or even maybe the points model. You're going to define it with your team, and you're going to adapt. adopt it. And then after, like, I don't know, 50 tests, 100 tests, you're going to keep improving your rules, and you're going to coming back to it and make it better. Voila, that's it.